you want to look and just see who's on the screen here. Welcome, everyone. Beloveds. Yeah. Beloveds near and far. Thank you for being with us. Yeah. Mhm. So good to be together on this Easter morning as a global family. Glad to see someone had sense enough to wear their Easter bonnets. Here is this holiday that celebrates resurrection. That word resurrection is associated so strongly with Easter morning as to be, in most people's minds, almost inseparable. But it does have a meaning apart from Easter, which is important. I looked it up. The root of the word is similar to the word insurrection. Yes, insurrection or insurgency. Insurgency. And it comes from a Latin root and no doubt more ancient roots before that. And the root of it is the same as the word surge. Surge. It really means that. Resurgence. A resurrection is a resurgence of life. Elena Song sang of that. Yes, how can I keep from singing? No matter what happens, there is this compulsion of life within us that doesn't stop. There's that resurgence within us. Love is Lord over heaven and earth. Rooted in love is this power of the universe that's been planted in us, and it does not stop. For us as human beings, unlike most of the forms of life on this planet, there's a conscious dimension to what is happening. Yes, we don't want to deny consciousness, but to everything else, to the rocks and to the turkeys out there and the deer and everybody else. But there's a way consciousness functions through us as human beings. And part of the way it functions through us has to do with conscious choice. We have conscious choice. And the rest of our human experience trails on along after that choice. Yes, the direction we look to, what focuses our attention. And so, in those ways, what we do consciously affects what's happening for us emotionally. It affects what's happening for us vibrationally or spiritually. And it affects our openness to this surge of life that's within us, whether we're fighting it or whether we're with it, letting it move in us powerfully, move through us and into our life to other people. It affects whether the love that we feel and know that's powering us, that is our nature, that is according to how we're made, our Lord, whether that reality is expressing through us and getting into the world, defining us, guiding us, directing us. So we have a conscious role to play in allowing that to be true, to participate in resurrection. And yet the power itself is undeniable, unstoppable. That's what is within us and what we have the opportunity to harmonize with. Last week, I was sharing really two passages from the New Testament that are translations of sayings of Jesus to those closest to him. And they were translated in the King James Version of the Bible as continue in my love, continue in my word. I got curious. The word continue, it seems to me, implies some kind of diligence needed. Like, keep at it, keep doing it. And yet the original Greek word didn't have that feeling. It was more a call to being than it was a call to doing. And of course, what we do, how we act in the world, comes out of what we're being, what we're knowing. There are various translations of the Greek word that was translated as continue, but the strongest were abide and stay. And sometimes these verses that I had quoted are translated as abide. Abide in my love. Stay in my word. If we don't do a little conscious work around sacred scripture from wherever, it can tend to be stale, kind of fixed in our minds, just words. And as we're open to it, it comes alive. You might say it's a little presumptuous to presume to translate biblical verse. You think it's presumptuous too? After all, somebody did it, not King James himself, but William Tyndale and others in that era. And people continue to do it. You can look up the literal meaning of the Greek words. So here's my audacious translation of some of those words. To, as much as possible, tune in to the heart of what Jesus was telling his followers, which is relevant for us. Stay in the love you know with me. Stay in the love you know with me. Stay in the unfolding pattern of reality we know together. Abide here. Stay. Don't go. That is the invitation of being itself, his invitation as a man who lived on earth, but the invitation of being, the invitation of spirit, to stay in the love that we know, the universal love, the love of the Most High for us, that wants to come through us. Stay in reality. Don't go bonkers. Yeah. Don't start believing things that are not true. Know what is true. Continue to be in what's true. Continue to let the truth of what's happening be known by you and unfold through you. And don't go running around looking for something that you already have, that is already right with you, right where you are. The Oz principle. Yes. You can go around looking for it, but you finally realize it's right where you are, wherever you are. We had a very moving time in the service expansion period last week. Typically from 1:15 to 2 o'clock Colorado time, we're in a time of dialogue around what's arisen through the service. And we got to a point of considering the rather common attitude towards Jesus and what happened to him, and then what he did. Very commonly, it's thought, well, it's God's will. It was all God's will. Seems to me that brushes off the significance of what happened. And the most obvious thing is it fails to take responsibility for us as humankind of what we did as humankind, right? Oh, it's all God's will. Oh, it's okay. Free pass for everybody, God's will. There's a big difference between saying that here was a man who knew the resurrecting power of life, a man who was unstoppable, who couldn't keep but from singing the song he had to sing, and who would face whatever, who would walk into Jerusalem knowing what he was facing. There's a big difference between saying that and saying it was supposed to happen. It strikes me, just thinking about a little bit, as crass. Crass. I mean, wouldn't it be crass if you met somebody who endured something like that and said, well, it was God's will? Crass, hard-hearted. And so Christians tend to have a shallow relationship with the one who incarnated as Jesus, to see him as something like a religious cardboard cutout, not as a being worthy of love and respect and honor, a being who you could come to know so that you would have a real relationship with what an historical figure. There was a man, he was an historical figure, and a real relationship with being itself, the reality of being. So we began to work with that. Most obvious thing to say is, if you met somebody who'd gone through that, what would you say? I am so sorry. I am so sorry. And you would say it, I think, even if it wasn't you did it to him or didn't have it seemingly anything to do with it. Still, if you met somebody who went through something like that, I would say, I am so sorry that happened to you. I so wish that did not have to happen. And yet that whole process of making amends or of apology that is part of human relations, part of any kind of real relations with another living being, gets kind of skipped over. So that we're not having a real relationship with God, if you will, by whatever name. We're having a relationship with something that tends to be the image of what that is, a religious icon of what it is. No, we're meant to have a real back and forth reciprocal relationship with the divine. But you have to treat that reality with the kind of honor and respect and realness that relationship deserves, not with some kind of rhetorical, dogmatic, religious response. What's God's will? No, I'm sorry. So what we began to work with last week in the expansion was something from a non-Christian culture, or I shouldn't say non-Christian, but not of particularly Christian origin, which is an Hawaiian prayer familiar to many of us, the Ho'oponopono prayer. And I want to say a word more about the prayer, which is, it's typically in the singular. And so it says, I'm sorry. And that's very valid. And I began to think about it as we were considering one day the meaning of something from another culture, which is from Zulu. And it's a declaration of Sawubona, which is a greeting. And the greeting is translated as, I see you, first of all, in the singular, but it's also translated as, we see you. Sawubona, we see you. And who's the we? The we is me, my family, my tribe, my ancestors. We see you. And I began to think about, isn't that a way to work with the Ho'oponopono prayer? it's in the plural too. Like, we're sorry. We, your culture, we, the world, we, in this case, we, humanity, and even we, all beings, all beings. So we're going to use both, and Keahi is going to lead us in this. So here's what I invite you to do is, however you relate to who Jesus was and is, however that is for you, you have a chance to be with this prayer in relationship to him. Okay. Like everything we do here, totally optional, totally we're a choice, all of us. And I think we'll do it twice. Keahi will lead us in it. So she'll speak a line once and then lead us in saying it together.
I usually don't write, but I did this morning wanted to be specific on the invitation, opportunity we have through this prayer beyond the culture. Okay. I invite you to gently open your heart and consciously join in the sacred practice of Ho'oponopono. It's a prayer of reconciliation, healing, and divine alignment. Together, let us be present to the power of these simple words as a path to inner peace and collective transformation. I am sorry. Please repeat after me. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. On a whole, one more time. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
Hello, I'm speaking to you from Salmon Arm, British Columbia. In spite of how it looks like I'm standing outside of the pavilion, I am not there, but I'm here together with you in this moment. A fundamental and actually a very simple truth is increasingly clear that as beings who are living, we are experiencing being. As humans being, we have the opportunity to be conscious of our being and also know a larger context of being. We live and move and have our being in being. And we're all learning what this means. And because being recognizes being, being can easily cover 2,000 years of time, which is what our beings did last Sunday, and we're continuing to do now. Last Sunday, as David was mentioning in the expansion time, when we were focused on this one supreme being who incarnated as a man, and we, as incarnate beings, offered a profound apology to that being, and it was very moving. When this was happening, I found that I was immediately connected with another figure that we weren't focusing on. My heart literally flew out of my chest and made a strong emotional contact with the mother of Jesus, Mary. And I was suddenly taken with a wave of grief as I thought of her. It took everything not to weep. This was very surprising to me. I did not expect this. And in this, I thought about how being was exemplified, in this case, by a mother's womb, specifically Mary's womb. The womb she provided, literally and metaphorically, was filled with the pregnancy of what was to be born. And from her womb, with her ability to contain and abide, such an enormous achievement was brought forth. The world is still talking about it. I realized how the substance of being, my own, plus the collective experience we were all having, brought me to this unexpected awareness of the being called Mary, and into awareness of a design that was surrounding the master. She was in the master's surround. She was part of a design of beings. And in that substance we were sharing last week, and I suggest now, I found Mary. Or did she find me? Find us? So in this ritual space, I'd like to speak to Mary and to other beings who came along with Mary, who made a very profound appearance with her at the foot of the cross on the day of crucifixion. And I want to talk about what their presence there together meant for us now, what that teaches us. Mary, perhaps one of the ways I connect with you is because we're both mothers. My heart goes to you when I think of your son's only 33 years of life. And I understand what Luke meant when he said, "But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart." How many mother-child memories, mother-son love, which eventually grew into an adult friendship of purpose. How did this all coexist with the tremendous tragedy that you witnessed? How did you contain it all? Did you sense and understand that there was a destiny beyond your own control, and that you knew that you were participating in that destiny, facilitating it as a guardian of truth? As a woman, I think you did. How large you are, holding in being and birthing such greatness. This was a special, special responsibility. As a mother, I feel you played a role that was key, and you moved from stage to stage in awarenesses as your son went through his evolution. You went through a tremendous transformation yourself. And you recognized a few others who were also being transformed by your son. And you encompassed them with your son. And they acknowledged your loving and substantial presence, your woman's stature in their master's life. But oh, what you and a few others saw of the impure heart of mankind. You saw how he was treated by the very men whom you probably welcomed right into your home as his friends. And in that cycle, you saw hypocrisy, you saw betrayal, how people turned away and forgot what their own eyes and ears had witnessed. Forgot. You probably experienced the judgment of stigma, and you were seen as different, loyal to what was shrouded in pain. All this you kept contained and sustained an environment of largeness, and you refused to turn away from where you began with your son, which was in love, where you always landed, where you remained, and the unconditional love you knew with him. I regret what you had to face. I am awed by your strength of being as you showed up at the foot of the cross. You brought your beingness into that horror and were there for him and us. He saw you. He spoke of you. You were there with him. Mary Magdalene, another being who was with the Master, one of those he had around him. I think you loved Jesus as a woman with your whole human beingness. I think he enjoyed all of you, your flesh, your mind, and your strong and true spirit. As the one alone who sat outside the tomb after enduring the crucifixion's horror, there was nowhere else you would be. And you were the first one to see Jesus after he left the tomb. Why, you thought he was the gardener, and what did he do? He lovingly called your name. How perfect for you. You held your own, I believe, Mary Magdalene. And for that, I love you. You were likely derided as a woman by petty jealousies, just like Mary of Bethany was by Judas, that time when she used expensive herbs to anoint Jesus's feet. She was called out as spending unnecessary money. But what did Jesus do? He said, let her alone. And you, Mary, too, would have been under that same protection by him. You stood, Mary, beside his mother at the cross and stood for women over time who dare to stand and hold a space for being, for his mother's being, and for the one who ultimately exemplified the tremendous achievement of the victory. You were loyal to the budding collective too. You were among the followers that Jesus drew, and you followed after he left with that collective experience. You were loyal. You were there for him. You stayed true, and you abided in his love. John, the beloved disciple, you provided a place for your master to know the safety of friendship. He knew you were with him and that you would continue in his love with him. And as it turned out, you would do so long after he was gone. He was right to count on you. You had both incarnated to be a team, to work together in the work that he had come to do. But then you witnessed the transgressions. You were with him in the hall of judgment when he was horribly defiled by those who had no idea who he was. You watched the vileness of the empty state of mankind, knew the center hadn't held. The center was bereft of being, but you held. You watched what the mind-made world did to his precious body in the place of the skull. You had to take on, field, what was consequently aimed at the master after he was gone, and experience the untrustworthiness of those who had walked alongside of you and with him. You saw the foolishness, the immaturity, how egos crept in and clashed, how what he had said and meant was mistranslated and used, the violence that filled the vacuum left empty, the waste of time, the waste of what was holy. And you endured and waited. You were discreet. You kept loving him, and wisely you recorded it in a mystical blueprint. Thank you for being there for our Lord and King. For that, we are blessed. Without you, perhaps all would have been lost. So to Mary, Jesus' mother, to Mary Magdalene, and to John the Beloved, you demonstrated a courage to show up when others stayed away. How many thousands followed this man around and listened to every word? And yet, when this occasion of his defilement was happening, where was everyone? Isn't that so characteristic of mankind? To care what others might think and to succumb to societal rules and fears just when showing up was what really counted. You, John, sustained your knowing of your own being, as did Mary, and indeed the mother of Jesus, Mary. You sustained your own being that had been revealed by being in his presence, and you did not deny that identity. John, you showed restraint, which was called for in the days that followed. You followed the master's instruction to tarry in the evolving consciousness so that the substance of being would precede any outward action. And I'm sure others judged you for doing this. You three came to be with the master just as we all are here today, beings who are incarnate now. We are standing on the same earth as these three did. And we, as incarnate right now, feel a connection that spans time and dimension and humbly acknowledge your living, your presence of being, and consciously acknowledge the design of being we share with you. On behalf of all beings, we consciously use this empathic connection to allow our hearts to feel the price you paid for us, for the purpose of unifying our resolve with you right now, in being, in union with the one that we love, together, representing that here on this planet where we stand. Thank you, three, for what you had done. Keahi?
Thank you, Anne. Let us continue in this ritual space as Anne so beautifully initiated. And let us lean into our plurality, both in this space of earth and in heaven, through the Ho'oponopono prayer. Please repeat after me. Maybe take a deep breath together. Relax your shoulders. Through this breath, we open to the divine. We are sorry. We are sorry. Please forgive us. We say thank you. We love you. One more time. We are sorry. Please forgive us. We thank you. We love you. Mahalo.
When Anne wrote to me, sharing her thoughts after our expansion time, I just had to think, of course. Of course. Like, if you met a woman who had had that experience, watched her son go through what her son went through, would you not express your sorrow? You say you're sorry to that woman? Even if you had nothing apparently to do with what happened. It is the human thing to do. And how crass not to do that. You wouldn't tell that woman, oh, it was God's will. I don't think so. So what happens when we deal with the hardness of heart that's been present in the Christian faith? I believe that's what we're talking about. When I say Christian faith, I don't mean to include only what the word has come to mean. If in this country, if you say you're a Christian, it tends to mean you're part of some branch of Christianity, yes? But I mean to include all Christians everywhere, of whatever sect, if you will, or denomination or non-denominational. About 1/3 of the people on this planet are Christian. It's still the largest religion on the planet. You might not identify yourself as Christian. I don't know for any one of you. I don't usually think of myself in those terms particularly. But nonetheless, I am proud to be part of what grew out of what Jesus brought. And I will claim that. And I also see the opportunity to bring something into the heart of Christianity, which is real. And to get real, I think we have to do something like what we just did. If we want a real relationship, not just a relationship with a religious figurehead or figureheads, we want a real relationship, we have to get real emotionally, spiritually, relate as beings, not only as religious icons or as personalities. What would happen if at the very heart of Christianity, something really came alive so that there was a real and vital relationship with being and the being that was brought, which after all was the point. There were all the teachings, and Jesus was perhaps the most brilliant spiritual teacher who's walked the earth. So not to be ignored. But at the end of the day, the significance of what he brought was his being, introducing us to who we are, our being. So beautiful what you said, Anne, about the eternality of this. 2,000 years, it's nothing. This is not about some religious story from reliving some religious story from 2,000 years ago, although it was brought vividly to mind. But ultimately, it's not about the story. It's ultimately about being, realizing that we're part of a constellation of being, that there's a pattern in that constellation, that they are beings who are unique and distinctive. When we find ourselves in that pattern, find that we have a place in being that we didn't know necessarily. We perhaps have been living a life as a human personality, trying to figure things out. And then in the middle of all that, we find that who we are is being held by something that is vast and eternal and beautiful, and that we have a part in that larger context. We can find ourselves in being. And then having that experience, we find that being has found us. All of being has found us, sees us. Sao bono, I see you. There's something so foundational about the human experience that has to do with seeing and being seen. And if in some of the most core stories or experiences in Christianity, there's not a seeing and there's not a being seen, what is that doing for the heart and soul of a Christian? And what are the implications in our culture today? Don't you see the same thing in world culture? Just a way of treating other people as if they're nothing. No real relationship that's honoring the being that we're with. That's whatever else it is not Christian. Truth of what it means to be a Christian. Well, so here we are on Easter morning. I want to close by celebrating the resurgence, the victory that Jesus knew, because despite what happened, he was victorious. Life prevailed in and through him. His message, his spirit reverberates today. We are a living proclamation of his victory. We have a chance to participate in the constellation of being that he was telling the world about, reminding the world of, reminding the world that they're part of this constellation of being. And I think of how that's happening in this community and how the expression of each person is so strong and unique, uniquely themselves, and how we welcome it as a part of one reality of being that we're knowing together, one family of being that we're knowing together. We celebrate each other's victories, yes. Each of the resurgence of life in a person. What makes you happier than that, than to see that? Yes. And with that, the surge of life that we know together, bringing powerfully to the world. We are not nobody, we are somebody, each of us, and we're somebody together. Knowing that victory and bringing it to the world. Sharing that victory. The victory of the living Christ. The victory of that most beautiful, beautiful man that he knew, that is our spirit today. Spirit of ultimate love. So good to share that. We want to share a time of attunement here. And then for those who would like to stay in the room a bit longer, have some dialogue along with you folks online, joining us in that.